Today, I want to do something a little different. No guest, no interview, no back and forth. Just you and me reflecting on the year, looking back at 2025, all the wins, the lessons, the surprises, and the moments that reminded me why I do what I do. And more importantly, how all of it ties back to my family and the intentional life that we're building together. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, and as we close out the book on 2025, I want to take you behind the scenes of both my professional world at Sunrise and my personal world at home. Because the truth is that the two are deeply connected. The work I do is driven by the life that I'm trying to create for my wife, Joanna, and my boys, Jackson and Julian. Real estate is the vehicle that has given us the freedom, the presence, and the adventure, and this year reaffirmed just how powerful that combination can be. So let's start with the Sunrise scoreboard to really set the stage. So in 2025, we acquired just over $80 million worth of new assets. Now, in order to achieve that, we reviewed just over 800 deals. We underwrote about 270 of them. And so when I say that we underwrote them, that means that our team of analysts went and did a full underwrite, did a full financial model. And so we underwrite over 260 of those respective deals. And of that 260, we wrote just over 150 offers or letters of intent. And then out of that 150 offers, we closed on 5 exceptional opportunities. Now, the majority of our activity took place in Columbus, Ohio. It's a market that we continue to love for the manufactured housing space that we're in. We also made a strategic move in the parking space with an acquisition of a parking garage in historic Old Town Philadelphia, literally 1 block from the Liberty Bell, 2 blocks away from Independence Hall, and a litany of other tourist locations there. A phenomenal location, irreplaceable real estate as we call it. So we still remain very bullish on the Southeast, the Northeast, and also the Midwestern markets. And those 3 regions will continue to anchor our strategy moving forward. But guys, the numbers don't tell the entire story. What I'm most proud of is the discipline behind those numbers. We had a deal this year that died. Let's talk about the bad, right? And it died for good reason. This is after lots of pursuit costs, lots of time, energy, effort, lots of resources. And I'm not going to go into granular detail on the deal because it could be a whole entire podcast episode in and of itself. In this particular deal, we dug in while we were in due diligence and while we were pretty far along in the endeavor. We uncovered information that changed the entirety of the picture in the business plan and we made the tough decision to walk away. Discipline's always going to beat emotion. We always look for a way or for a reason not to buy a property. A lot of folks go in the complete opposite direction. They look for reasons to buy a property. And I feel like the reasons around why you should be buying a particular property, they're pretty apparent. It's the reasons that you shouldn't buy the property. Taking emotion out of the equation and finding the reasons why you shouldn't buy the property that ultimately keeps you from making bad decisions. And so discipline always beats emotion, and it always has and it always will. And, on the other side of that coin, okay, like that didn't go as we had intended. But on the other side of that coin, we closed the deal in Columbus that checked every box and remind us that when you stay patient and you stay principled, the right opportunities will find their way to you. There's always going to be another deal on the other side of the door. You be patient, be disciplined, and know that real estate, it's a long game. You're going to get in. If you're just getting started, you might have a few really big wins. You might hit a home run or a grand slam every once in a while, make a lot of money in a short duration of time. But really, real estate's all about the long game. It's a patient game. And so when you stay principled in your approach, that's when you buy assets that don't just make sense today, but they make sense for decades and decades down the road. So another thing I'd like to hit on here today is, quite a bit over this past year, people were asking me, what underwriting assumptions did we change this year? How do we, there's been some, one could say that we're in a recessionary period right now. We went through the last couple of years where interest rates have been at historic highs for a number of years. And so transactional volume's really low. So it's been a few challenging years. And so a lot of folks just assume that we have made major adjustments to our underwriting assumptions. But the truth is that we didn't make any dramatic changes because we've always been conservative investors. I think back to 2020 with COVID, after everyone realized the world wasn't going to end. Well, real estate went on a rampage. I'm sure you remember, it wasn't that long ago that prices were through the roof. Late 2020, 2021, 2022, really before rates started going up, real estate was on a tear and everyone was buying. A lot of people were overpaying. And now we're seeing the fallout as a result of that. Sunrise did buy some great opportunities during those years. But guess what? We got beat out on a lot of stuff and we stayed consistent. We stayed disciplined in our approach and we bought some great assets that we paid a fair price for. We didn't overpay. And that put us in a phenomenal position when everyone else was on the sidelines the last couple of years. Everyone else was dealing with fallout from maybe deals they overpaid for, they got too aggressive on. And we were ready. We were well capitalized. And so we've had literally a couple of the biggest growth years ever the last 3 years. And so to answer the original question is we haven't changed any of our underwriting assumptions. We've always been conservative. We're going to remain to be conservative. We stress test deals aggressively. We spend as much time looking for reasons not to buy, as I'd mentioned, that we do looking for reasons to buy something. And again, we might not be the highest bidder. I can guarantee in most instances, we're not. When a seller chooses to sell to us, the one thing I can promise you is that we execute. We don't retrade. We don't miss equity targets. And we close the deal. And we do it professionally. We do it efficiently. And that reliability is what has allowed Sunrise to grow the way it has over the last couple of years. And another key area I think I'd hit on here as we kind of go down this path is about capital raising. Again, that's been a general sentiment that I've heard now over the last couple of years, but it's been more difficult to raise capital. I will say that this was a great year for us for capital raising. Have we worked a little harder to raise the same dollar that, maybe would have been a little tad bit easier 4 years ago? Yes, but it's fine. You'll find that if you just are willing to work harder than the next person, you'll probably be more successful in the long run. And so I would say earlier on in this year, investors were a little cautious. I think that was a general sentiment. And, for a number of obvious reasons, interest rates, inflation, there's also some geopolitical uncertainty that influenced that sentiment. But as the year progressed, I'd say that confidence grew, especially toward the types of assets that we invest in, mobile home parks and also parking. They're very much recession resilient and have outperformed during these last couple of years. I could sit on the other side of this table about investor sentiment because I personally have quite a bit of capital invested amongst a number of other syndicators in different asset types. And there's a number of them where I've lost all my capital, all my investment is gone, is vanished, it's not coming back. And I think there's a lot of other investors that have experienced that personally over these last couple of years. They've made investments, they've made commitments with operators, and the deal has gone sideways for one reason or another, and they've lost all their equity, lost all their investment. In some instances, in very severe or extreme instances, maybe the deal even went back to the bank, right? It got foreclosed upon. And so that also creates uncertainty with investors. And when you're out there raising capital, it makes it a lot more challenging because folks, I mean, they've been vulnerable, they've been financially impacted, and so they proceed with a little more trepidation. And so what resonated, I think, the most with our investors and the feedback we've received from them is our transparency and our track record. And again, I can sit on the other side of the table, and I've watched a number of investments that I've made over the years. I watched them when times got tough. What did they do? Did they lean in, and did they over communicate even the bad news, which is ultimately what we want to hear about? We want to hear about what's going bad. What's going good? That's great. Good news is great, but give me the bad. Give me the bad. Give me how I'm going to potentially lose my money, and then give me the story about how we're going to save this investment, right? And what I found is that there's a contingent of those operators that just basically stuck their head in the sands, and they did a horrible job of communications. They weren't transparent, and it just unfortunately a lot of investors lost faith. A lot of passive investors that are out there in the market lost faith, and so we really leaned into it over the last couple of years. And number one, we haven't missed a distribution. Literally, we've had, I think, now 34 consecutive quarters of on-time distribution. So we never paused distributions, never stopped distributions, never missed them. We're very conservative with our debt. And so we're in a really good position. But even then, a lot of our investors still had uncertainty because maybe the impact that they've had on other deals within the market. And so I would say that our investors took a little bit longer to make a decision. They asked deeper questions, which is great. They should be asking these questions, right? But once they felt aligned, they committed to investing. And so capital raising at the end of the day, it's not about selling guides. It's really about building trust. It's about trust in execution, trust in communication, and trust in alignment. And that when you nail those three things, you're going to be able to raise capital for your deals. Real quick, I wanted to share something before we move on. If you followed me for a while, you know that Sunrise Capital, my real estate investment company, invests in mobile home parks and parking facilities. Now, our current fund is closing out this calendar year, 2025, by acquiring 6 already performing assets worth about $50 million in total. And these assets will spin off cash flow and continue to grow in value for years to come. Now, I'll highlight that 2025 investors will also get K1 passive losses from bonus depreciation up to 100% of their invested capital. Now, put simply, if you invest $100,000, you're going to get up to $100,000 in passive losses in this calendar year, 2025. So if you're looking for income, growth, and significant depreciation for this calendar year, find out more by going to investwithsunrise.com. Thanks for your attention. Now let's get back to the interview. Operationally, this was also a year of evolution for Sunrise. One of the biggest milestones for us was bringing our entire accounting infrastructure in-house. Now, for years, we worked with a number of different large third-party accounting firms, some of the best in the nation. But while there were benefits, there was ultimately never a full alignment of interests. Okay, no one's ever going to have the same interest in your business as you. No one's ever going to treat your business like you will. And so you'll never, I don't care how good of a third-party vendor it is, you're never going to never have a full alignment of interest. And so, when we're working with these third-party groups, the communication wasn't as tight as it needed to be. And so we made the tough decision. We hired a full-time CFO, we hired a full-time controller, and now we've gone about building an internal accounting team that now lives and breathes Sunrise every day. It was a difficult decision. It was a big, heavy lift, and one that we're still, putting the finishing pieces in place today. But this shift has already improved a lot of our accuracy, our speed, and clarity across the company. And of course, there's always the ongoing challenge that comes with a rapidly growing organization such as Sunrise. And we like to call it internally building the airplane while you fly it, right? Actually putting the pieces together as you're trying to fly the airplane. And so as we've scaled, our focus has been really tied to building better systems, better processes, and support structures that allow us to grow without losing the efficiency that we created or the company culture that we've been able to build over these years. And so, unfortunately, it's a challenge that will never fully go away. It'll always be here, but we're getting better at it every year. And so I'm incredibly proud of the people who make that possible inside the Sunrise family. I'd love to shift gears now, and I'd love to talk about the personal side of 2025 because this year was unforgettable. This might be the first time you're tuning into the show. Maybe you've been a listener. I've been doing this now for over 10 years, quite a long time. And way back in the day when I used to host this podcast, I'm talking like back in the first couple of years, I would spend quite a bit of time talking about my family and little personal tidbits. And over the years, I've gotten away from that. Mixed reviews as a result. And so there's a chance that you might not know anything about me. You might not know about my family, but I would say for those that do, if you know my family, you know that we are big on traditions and we're big on adventure. One of the highlights of our year, so I'm going to share some of the recaps of our year and just some of the highlights that I love to speak to. And we're all about creating memories and just having adventures together. I've got 2 young boys, Jackson and Julian. Julian just turned 9 and Jackson just turned 12. So, we're at a really fun part of their, childhood journey. And so we try to do a lot of cool things together with them. One of the highlights of our year was a sailing trip to Greece. We spent 8 days on a catamaran exploring various islands, swimming in the Mediterranean, and lots of cool quality time together in neat little towns and islands. And we had the opportunity to do this trip with some close family friends of ours. And it was really just one of those experiences that will live in memory forever. And so very grateful for that trip. That's how we kicked off the summer. And then another highlight of the year, and these are all kind of summer related things when the kids are out of school. So another highlight was our annual escape from the Florida heat. For those that are familiar with summertime in Florida, it gets hot. And I've lived down here for 23 years now, and it seems like the older I get, the more grumpy I get when it's 90 degrees outside and it's July or August here in Florida. But I'd always rather have the hot than the cold. So I'm not complaining. It's just you always look for a way to find a reprieve. And so I guess about 7 or 8 years ago, we started the family tradition where we basically take a couple weeks. We pack up the car, pack up the truck, hook our boat up to the back of the truck, and then we drive up to a mountain lake. And this year, we escaped the Florida heat by going up to Lake Kiwi in South Carolina. A lot of folks don't know that South Carolina actually has a mountainous region. So this part's on the northern part of the South Carolina. It's right at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So this lake trip every year, it's been at a couple different lakes, but this has become a tradition. Again, rent a big house, invite friends and family, and just really fill the days with lots of fun activities, wakeboarding, tubing, swimming, campfire, s'mores, and just lots of good laughs and good quality time together. And it's a real slow, intentional period that allows us to get grounded. It allows us to spend quality time together, and then just really create, again, amazing memories. And then last thing I'll make mention of here, just kind of last highlight that sticks out in my mind as I talk through this year and recap is we have one other tradition that's been going on now, again, I think for 8 years. It's our end of the summer scalloping weekend that we do here in the Gulf. I live about a block away from the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it. If you know anything about me as well, you'll know that boating and waters, and not just my DNA, but my family's DNA, we live and breathe everything related to water. We're the happiest when we're on the water, when we're on a boat. Most of our vacations and just adventures revolve around boating and water. And so anyway, every year we invite 2 really close family friends. We host it here at our home. And their kids come, and we spend the weekend harvesting scallops out of the Gulf of Mexico. We do a big seafood feast together, and it allows us to celebrate the end of the summer. Typically, it's the week before school starts, and so it was an amazing time together, and one for the books. This was also a big year for Jackson and Julian, my 2 boys. They, we since they were really young, we've really introduced them to all the different types of sports. They swam for a number of years. They played soccer, a number of other things. Baseball, for whatever reason, that's what I played growing up. They didn't really have an interest there. But really what they drew an attraction to about 3 years ago was we got them involved in flag football. But this year was a big year. Both boys stepped up to tackle football for the very first time. Jackson's team went to the championships, and Julian's team had a phenomenal year as well. But the wins and the losses weren't what mattered most. What really mattered was watching them, just watch them thrive and learn teamwork, learn discipline, commitment, resilience. Seeing them develop as young athletes and young men has been one of the greatest joys of my life. It's a really big highlight of the year. Guys, that brings me to something even more deeper and even more personal, and something that I have yet to share publicly until today, until this podcast. Outside of my friends and family and a few folks in our leadership team, I have not shared this with anyone else. In April of 2026, so next spring, my family and I will be embarking on a full year journey around the Great American Loop. And for those that don't know, the Great American Loop is roughly a 6,000 mile nautical adventure. It goes up the eastern seaboard, up the Hudson River, up into the Great Lakes, through the Great Lakes, and then back down the river system all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, and then you circumvent Florida. And some folks go off to the Bahamas for a little bit, but ultimately we're going to be doing the Great Loop as a family. I learned about the Great American Loop about 15 years ago, way before I had kids. It's been a dream of mine ever since, and so we've always talked about as a family. And as I'd mentioned, we're a family of boaters. We love being on boats. We love water. We love adventure. And so this year, the family has committed to living on a boat for a year while the boys will homeschool, while I run Sunrise remotely, and while we explore more than 150 ports across the eastern seaboard and up in the Great Lakes into Canada. I'd say that the biggest win from this was getting my family fully committed, and not just getting them committed, but getting them excited and getting them aligned around this adventure. So guys, we bought the boat, we made the decision, and we embraced the discomfort together. And so I think that's the key, discomfort. One of the greatest lessons I try to teach my boys is the importance of becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. Growth happens at the edge of uncertainty, not in the warmth of any type of routine. And, we know that this journey that we're about to embark on, it won't be easy. We expect emotional challenges, mechanical challenges, unfamiliar waters, tight living quarters. We're leaving the comfort of our home, where everyone's got their own space, and we're moving on to this boat that's got 400 square feet of space, and days where just really things don't go according to plan. Like, I know that's going to happen probably more times than not, but we also know that this will be one of the richest, most meaningful experiences of our lives. And so, guys, we're officially naming this journey Boundless Bupps, and we're actually going to be documenting it on YouTube so that people, anyone else, can follow along. You can see the highs, you can see the lows, you can see homeschooling, boat repairs, the leadership of running a company remotely, and the evolution of our family as we embrace on a year of adventure. So, guys, professionally, as I look ahead to 2026, I've never been more excited. The team that we've built at Sunrise is extraordinary. Man, it's a team of talented, mission-driven, value-aligned individuals who show up each and every day for the right reasons. And with the leadership team that we have in place and the culture that we've built, I don't see how we can lose. I firmly believe that the opportunities that are ahead are significant, and the market is right for disciplined teams and operators like ourselves that have the systems that we put in place for this year to really set us up for a powerful run. So I'm incredibly excited, not just for our personal journey in 2026 on the Great American Loop, but also professionally. I couldn't be more excited for the team that we have. Just incredibly grateful for the family at Sunrise that we've built, for the culture that we've built, and just for our partners that have put faith in us over the last decade plus that we've been building out Sunrise. And so I want to close by sharing a few personal commitments as well before we wrap this up. And I believe in accountability, and when you declare something out loud, people watch. You're gonna be paying attention here, and that pressure, at least for me, I found that pressure really helps me grow as an individual. And so I'm going to make a couple commitments out loud to you guys. I'm going to put it out here, and you can hold me accountable. I'm committed to being fully present with my family during our great loop journey. Truly present to me means it's not half in, half out, right? I'm going to be all into this thing with family, and let's create some cool memories together, even through the trials and tribulations that I'm sure we're going to face. The second commitment is I'm committed to leveling up my health. I've always been a big proponent of healthy, of exercise and healthy eating. But, as I get older, I need to improve on my sleeping habits. I need to consistently eat cleaner and less alcohol. I'm not looking to eliminate alcohol, and I don't drink a ton. I'm not a heavy drinker, but I enjoy bourbon. I enjoy scotch. I enjoy a good beer. But I found as I get older, it has a much greater negative impact on me, and cloudy brain, cloudy focus, and just not as productive. And so I'm looking to reduce my alcohol consumption in 2026, and just create a more consistent physical routine as well. The third thing, I'm committed to showing up consistently with the Boundless Bups content. My objective here with recording this journey is I don't want it to be polished. It's not going to be perfection. But really, man, guys, just what I want to do is I want to share the authentic nature. I want to, share our story, and I want to share the real moments, right? I'm a normal dude. I'm a normal guy, just like each and every one of you. And so I want to share that with the world. Hopefully it can bring some value to you as well. And then I think the last thing here I'll make a commitment to is I'm committed to continue leading Sunrise with clarity and purpose and just trust. And the alignment that we've created is a beautiful thing. And so we're going to continue growing and evolving as an organization. And so I look forward to that. I look forward to the family that we've built. I look forward to serving our partners, and it's going to be amazing and fun 2026. I appreciate each and every one of you. Appreciate you, the Sunrise team. I appreciate our partners, our investors, and I appreciate each and every one of you that are listening, that are tuning in. I just thank you. Thank you for the commitment. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for giving me your ear. This has been going on now for over 10 years. We've been recording this podcast, and it's been a fun journey. I've met some amazing people over the years. Hopefully I've made an impact in one form or fashion or another on you or someone else that might be tuning in here. And so thank you for being part of the journey. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. I know that means, you've given me your trust. You've given me your support. And you believe in what we're doing here and the value that we share. And so just thank you for all that you do. And so if you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, share with someone who might find value in it. And if you haven't done so, please do leave a review. It does help more than you know. I know it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to go leave a review, but I would greatly appreciate it. Would be honored to if you take the moment to do that. That's all we have, my friends. I appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate this. You listen to this year in recap. This is the first time I've done this in a number of years, and I thought that it was very fitting, being that we finished out a great 2025. We got slots in store for 2026, and so with that, we're going to wrap this up. So wishing you, each and every one of you, strong deals, consistent cash flows, and a life designed with intention. So guys, I will see you next year in 2026. Take care.